I want to welcome you to How Does the Growing Church Among the Unreached Businesses, Missions, and Prayer Fit Together? Yes, a big topic in 15 minutes. So very quickly, my name is Larry Ragan. I am part of a ministry called Culture Link, and our mission is to make disciples of those who will make disciples of all nations. So very quickly, why am I here and why am I talking about BAM, Businesses, Missions, or Business for Transformation? We are a equipping ministry. We predominantly do multiple discipleship-based short-term teams. In fact, we have over 2,000 leaders in 9 years that are taking multiple teams into 125 different nations right now. But as that grew and the BAM movement grew, I started to get tied into organizations that found the tension of we have business people going over that know their goods when it comes to business, but they don't know their culture side of things. So we had people going over taking jobs overseas or creating jobs overseas, and yet they didn't understand discipleship, the spiritual dynamics pieces, those kind of things. So over the last number of years, I've been coming in with a number of different organizations. Open is why I'm here today. They asked me to come take this spot for them. So that just gives you a little glimpse of who I am, what I do. We work with church policy, church development, funding models, and just in a consulting role as well as training. So that's a little information back on the back there. So back to our topic here. How does the growing church among the unreached? What is going on here? We've seen in our preliminary sessions some exciting things. And one of the things I've really, really appreciated about this new Wineskins conference, and I'll be real honest with you, I'm not Anglican. So this is an introduction to me in a world. I've been at so many missions conferences, so many events. I am blown away. I am so thrilled. I think I'm going to start finding an Anglican church in Atlanta at this point. Though it's been the worship, the teaching, the movement, the passion that's going on at this conference has been exciting. But one of the things that I was asked specifically to come and talk about is I spend about 50% of my time now in the Middle East. I just was targeted in the summer by Hezbollah on the border of Lebanon and Israel, and there's a whole story to it. It's pretty dramatic. I'm fine. They didn't get a picture of my passport. And you think, what did my wife have to say when I got home and told her? She goes, oh, I'm so jealous. Now when you're at a party and you play that game, 3 Truths and a Lie, you'll have great stories. Okay, that explains to you my marriage right there, all right? So I'm knee-deep in doing worker care with missionaries, even though we don't always use that word, in what I call, and is known as the cousin world. Y'all familiar with the phrase cousin world? Does that mean anything to you? Well, Abraham had 2 children, Isaac and Ishmael. All of the descendants of Isaac are cousins to all the descendants of Ishmael. Ishmael is the Muslim world. So I spend a lot of time in the cousin world. It's kind of code. And one of the things they wanted me to bring up is don't believe the world according to CNN. Yes, I was targeted by Hezbollah. Yes, it was an interaction. Yes, we got hit by a car, surrounded, all these things. But in the midst of that, I was also worshiping with Syrians, Kurds, Sikhs, every kind of mixture you can of Muslims. If you have not seen the movie that's come out recently called Sheep Among Wolves, are y'all seeing that on the internet and things? It's about the church in Iran. What is happening, how quickly it's growing. And so when you hear about that and the incredible movement going on, and then you hear the Secretary of Defense last week announce that we're sending military aid to Saudi Arabia to protect their oil fields from Iran, you get petrified, but yet you realize there's an incredible movement in the church. Visions, dreams. I'm on the front row of all of this. And the reason I wanted to give you that picture, and I've been listening to the Operation World people speak, everything you hear about the unreached world, it's true. Persecution, it's true. Martyrs, it's true. growing churches. It's true. Miracles. It's true. But what you have to go above all that is if we look at some things on man's eyes, we will lose hope. We can't do that. We will lose hope. We can't do that. In the midst of persecution, the church is thriving. But what is happening is, and it is true whether you're trying to mobilize people from North America or the Latin America, South American church into the Muslim world, because they are finding that these are some of the most effective workers come from those regions to the world, it is impossible to get into these places as traditional missionaries. So over the last 20 years, there's been a movement that began being formed called Business as Missions. If you do a history of it, you want to go back 30 years ago, there was a movement called the Finishers Forum. If we could just get everybody to take, you're nodding, if we could get everybody to take early retirement and go be missionaries, we were going to reach the world. But the problem with that was we were taking brilliant businessmen who had had successful careers in the States, and we were trying to retool them to be traditional missionaries. I want you to get the idea. We're trying to get them to speak a language, and they need hearing aids. Does that make any sense to you? You understand that, buddy? Yeah. And so that wasn't working. But then we started to realize, and this is a phrase I want you to hear, I believe in the church and I believe in other countries, the least mobilized are our business people that may be being mobilized for the last reach at this point in time. Because through business, you can get into places that you couldn't get in before. You can impact in ways that you couldn't get in before. And you can make a difference. Now, this is only an appetizer. I only get 15 minutes. So this is not a lesson on business as missions. I want to illustrate how that works. It works like this. Go in and form a teaching English school in Saudi Arabia. If you've got an education in English, they'll let you have a visa and they'll let you do that. So what happens is they start throwing their children into your influence. And then over time, you get permission to impact their lives. School teachers in the international school in Cairo, where the school is 70% Egyptian rich families. So someone has chosen to place themselves in there legally, in a position of that, and they have an avenue of influence. Medical doctors. These are people that, for their business, they go. And that's good. And there's some categories of business as missions. One is called business fakers, and we don't like them. A business faker is somebody who simply goes in on a business visa, but they're not really a business person. They use it as an entry. It usually lasts them maybe 2 to 4 years before the gig is up. Because the government's like, where's this business that it's not happening. And we also don't like people, and these are Lauren Fox, who's part of the, in Thailand. He does business and missions there. These are his terms. We also don't want to send you as a job or a business taker, meaning you're taking jobs away from the nationals. That doesn't work. Business holders or job holders is a medical doctor that knows equipment and go to a hospital and train doctors. They're holding a job where they can influence and then pass that job back off to another person. Make sense? The ultimate goal with business as missions is to have business makers or job makers. You want to create a business where you have a niche, and then you begin to hire the nationals in that country, so you're helping raise their standard of living, and you develop not only the evangelistic approach, but the economic approach and the health of people. So those are the ways business as missions fits. Illustration, dear friends of mine went into North Africa, and they are actually, I'm not going to name where they are because I just remembered this is being recorded right now. Glad I paused on that. And went into North Africa, and my timer is clicking, sorry, paying attention. Went into North Africa, and her husband went in thinking he was going to use this engineering as a method. And they went into language study, and then they started trying to get an engineering job, and they couldn't get one, no matter any way they tried. And so there's the story of the widow and Elijah. And she's coming up and goes, I need help, I need food. And Elijah goes, well, what do you have? I have oil. Well, feed me first. And so they were in this conversation with God, and God said, what do you have? And she said, well, I don't know how this will help us in country, but I'm a preschool and elementary school music teacher. You know, teaching kids how to use the little cymbals and drums and these colored bells that you hold up a red, and they all shake the red bells, and all of a sudden you've got a song. And God said, there's nothing like that in this city, in this country. Nothing like that. So she went to a local elementary school and said, would y'all like me to come do this? And they said yes. And all of a sudden, the education department said, we've never had anything like this. And then she started teaching them how music and reading go hand in hand. And now they have a business in this country of 40 Muslim women that normally would not be employed. You understand what I'm saying here? 40 Muslim women that go and do preschool music classes across the public school system that the Department of Education pays for them to be in. And you know what happens after school? These women run music classes. I'm talking old-fashioned auto harp kind of stuff. And from this, I got 2 minutes. And from this, what happens is these women are coming to Christ. A handful of the husbands are seeing a difference in their wives. And they're getting to know her husband. And now he's the financial CEO of the company. They've handed the bookkeeping over to a national, and they've created a business that is impacting. And as these people come to Christ, then and only then do they begin introducing them to some hidden church planters in the system, going into places. So Business as Missions gives you the opportunity to go into places that traditional missionaries cannot go. So I want to leave you with a thought. I said I wanted you to know how prayer fits together. When I'm praying for the unreached world, I go back to a passage in Genesis. And I want you to know that Hagar really was probably the first Muslim refugee being sent out by her own family forcibly. And one of the things we have to realize in our culture is most of our Muslim refugees, most of them right now are being persecuted by their own people. The Syrian refugees, the Rohingyas, it's their own people shoving them across borders. This isn't Christians doing this. This is Muslim against Muslim, brother against brother. And so she was being shipped out, and she found herself, her water was running out, and she felt like she was going to die, and she couldn't bear to see her son die. So the first prayer I do for the Muslim world is make them thirsty. Pray that their water runs out. I want y'all to be doing that right now. Pray that their water runs out. Also, when her water ran out and she is crying, God said to her, I have not forgotten your people. You need to remember, as you pray for the Muslim world, for their water to run out, the reason you're praying to God is because He hasn't forgotten them. You're going to the God of the universe who has not forgotten them. And then, I love this, and then her eyes were opened. Pray for the revelation that there is water right there for them. There's water right there, that living water. And the fourth thing she did is she got Ishmael and she took him to the water. Once their eyes are open, pray that they will grab others and bring them to the water. Bring them to the water. And so where does Business as Mission fit in that? As they're there, they can help be the one, whether it's a music teacher, when she starts to see her eyes open because of the the incredible credibility in which they run their business. It's not based off of bribes. It's got a high ethic standard. And their eyes begin to be opened. And then they can point them to that living water. And then when that person gets living water, they can help them bring that other school teacher or that other music teacher, and so on and so on. My 15 minutes are up by minus 1 minute. Not too bad for me, a long-winded pastor. So anyway, questions, concerns, if you got criticisms, take them to Lisa back there. You know, she and I have been ministering together for 25 years. Once 25 years ago, we saw each other today. And that's it. No time in between. No comments, questions, business missions. Go. Great. All right, have a good life.
Yeah. What in the Middle East particularly, what business field do you see as like a general one, but a good starter off?
Okay, again, in the Middle East, it all depends. It all depends if you want to be a job holder in business missions. Like a job holder would be, I'm seeing incredible petroleum engineers get jobs in Saudi Arabia. But they're being hired by American companies. So that's not all bad. So I see a lot of petroleum engineers in a lot of medical fields. Those are easy placement ones. All right. A lot of data analytics fields right now are coming in as well. Teaching English second language, huge mobilized into those arenas. School teachers in international schools. Those are the unique pieces that I would call a job holder. You're going in. Job makers. I'm not saying one's better than another. If you're not entrepreneurial, that's a great way to go in. But find yourself alongside of some other teams that are church planters and stuff. Find the system and how you can feed into that. Make sense? Okay, in terms of job makers, travel agencies. We have friends that are running a band in Turkey, and they have a travel agency, and it has 22, right now it's down to 18 Turkish employees that all work for their travel agency and doing tours throughout Turkey. They do everything from Paul's missionary journey tours to a tour of mosques. They don't care who's booking the tours. So travel agencies are good. English schools, not just teaching the second language, but on the reverse, this seems almost backwards. There's a business in Jordan. I don't want to name the name of it, but it's one of the best language study of Arabic schools. They make their money off of all the people trying to learn Arabic, because who they're employing? All the Muslim language tutors. Yeah. So that's, and I know it to be, it looks like an Arabic Institute of Language, but it's all being ran through. So you've got all this creativity. I know this is in Indonesia. This guy and his wife were trying to figure out what in the world were they going to do for a business and how could they stay. And they're out in this random village and they start to realize there's a bunch of wild growing citronella plants. Well, they have chemical engineering degrees. Citronella oil is what we put in all of our bug repellent. Thank you so much. And so they started realizing, wait, this is good stuff. So they basically put a distillery together, and they started making citronella oil of high quality, and they have transformed an entire community now. And they're selling their citronella oil into Japan, into South Korea, and into the United States for the production of bug repellent. So he stumbled into that. Look up this website. There's a million, but Second Story Goods. 2ND, not SECOND. Make sense? Second, as in the 2ND, the number. Second Story Goods. It is a community in Haiti that started, again, using the Elijah principles. The missionaries have been living there for a long time, handout after handout after handout after handout, and they're like, it's never going to end. And they finally started saying, what's your oil? What can you do? I bind books. Well, bring me one of your bound books. And they brought it, and they said, no American would buy this. Only pity short-termers come and buy this from you. You understand what I'm saying? You go home with these things that fall apart. She said, no American will buy this from you. You got to bring up the quality of your work. And so then one thing led to another, led to another. Second story goods, goat skin, bag. And that, so when you see their website, it is an entire transformed community. So when you have a good business that is job-making business, you're going to have profit, you're going to have community development, you're going to have evangelism, you're going to have a holistic approach to ministry. Okay, questions? Yes, ma'am.
The teaching of the English as a second language, is that based on Americans recruiting people from here to go there and teach, or the locals are recruiting people?
Both and. I've seen it both ways. If you've got, the big key of having English as a second language is make sure you have good English speakers. I mean, that's,
right.
And I know that seems so intuitive, but I want you to realize that because when you're hiring locals that their English isn't that proficient, then you don't have a credible business. The quality isn't there. So that's why I said both and. It may be that there's actually a transition mode when you start your English schools and then over time you get less Westerners involved in it, just like you would in church planting, transition, those kind of things. So the answer is both and on that.
With ESL, are they looking mainly for bachelor's in English, or is there a certificate in English as well?
Great question. Again, answer of so many of these things, Lisa, you might be able to answer some of this too, but it depends on the country. It used to be if you spoke English, you could go teach something. A lot of people went in and did that. They just did. But what has begun to happen is we know of a family that got bumped out because they said, where's your education degree? And neither one of them had it. They were both engineers in a very large Asian country, and they weren't English teachers.
Yeah.
So, again, it depends. Now, if you're going to have an English degree, I think you need a linguistic side of it, not simply a literature degree. You need to understand the aspect of teaching a language, not simply speaking a language. So, and in the meanwhile, if I were you and you're interested in that as an avenue, start looking online right now. You can teach English online all around the world, and if you get that piece into your resume, it can help place you somewhere more quickly. And again, that becomes, if you're just taking a position to teach English, you're a job holder. But if you get to a community and you start building it out, you become a job maker. So, okay, any other questions? We've got, it's time for, what time are you supposed to be in here?
3:10.
I got 5 more minutes, thank you. When they don't start on the OCD hours like I like, yeah, I'm OCD, I'm not really, I'm CDO, alphabetical the way it should be. That's good, yes.
How do you prepare people for, if their plan is to make a business, build one from the ground up? Just the time frame, the cycle. I mean, obviously creating business anywhere takes a lot of time. And just how do you prepare folks to just know, hey, the first 3 or 4 years is just going to be hard and you won't have the money to hire people? You know, how do you prepare just kind of that cycle of business?
I'm going to let you, behind the curtain, Oz, what you see behind the curtain on businesses' missions. Here's part of the challenge is starting businesses are tough to begin with. We know the percentages of startup businesses that fail. We understand that. Getting capital to start businesses is tough. The old adage, we said it on our all-day, she was in our all-day pre-conference. We said, getting capital on a startup business, only friends, family, and fools invest in it. I mean, that's the nature of it. It's hard to truly get capital until you're at the growing phase of the business. That's when people want to give you capital so you can expand. So you watch Shark Tank. All of them have already started. They're trying to get capital for the growth phase. There are organizations here that every 2 years hold Shark Tank things around the world or workers that have started businesses. I can let you know who those are. You go to a location and you pitch your idea, and a lot of the kingdom of God is going to be advanced in your tried record. All right? So those do exist. What is happening now, and again, I'm not in real knowledgeable in the Anglican mission sending agencies, but I also know that John are with team, and I've met people here that are going out on the frontiers, other organizations. A lot of these businesses are starting in a blended model. You're still raising your support, your traditional method of getting into a country, and you're going to launch your business with the goal of transitioning it out from that. Depending on your philosophy, there are tried and true BAM people who think that's faking it. All right? But then there's people who say, no, that's not faking it. It's the young guy who starts his business but lives in his parents' basement. They got that undergirding of support. So it's when you go into a country without a business, you have a business visa, but you really don't have a business, there's a credibility issue there. So to answer your question, there are very normal steps to do it. But they're the same normal steps as you do to launch a business here. To get your feet wet, you kind of have to get in country, you have to start working on the language and those kind of things. Wish I could say step 1, step 2, step 3, but it's not that clear. Well, it is that clear. It's not that easy. So